Hello and welcome to the Stitching Kitchen.
Hey, welcome back to the Stitching Kitchen. I'm so glad that you've been joining us for these lessons. I just want to remind you that I want to teach you every single step I could possibly teach you up to when you start stitching and beyond. And the reason for that is if you have good skills, you're going to enjoy stitching instead of sitting there going, oh, I don't want to do this as a hobby. Seriously, it's a lot of fun. It gives you a lot of creativity and a lot of peace. Today's lesson is going to be about the vertical thread. Now, vertical thread is this way, north to south. Horizontal threads are east to west. We look for a vertical thread because there's a certain technique that you use on linen. Once you see it, you'll always see it. It locks your stitches in so that they lay in little rows. And you'll see that, like I said, when we go to do our little needle case. The vertical thread also helps you count. Yeah, there's counting in cross stitch, I'm sorry. But I'll make it easy for you. All right, here we go. I have this big clunky fabric, it's 18 count. That means, let me just show you. If I were to count and put an inch down, there would be 18 of these threads going horizontally and vertically. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna look for the vertical thread. All right, right here, you see this little vertical thread? It's going over the horizontal thread. So I'm going to pull the thread and needle to the surface. I'm going to show you how to find this vertical thread. When you count threads, you don't start here. You move over the thread and say 1, and you go over the next thread and say 2. Then you go to the right and say 1, and to the right again and say 2. Well, looky there is another vertical thread. So I'm going to go to the back of the fabric with my needle and thread. This is called a half cross stitch. Now, the most important thing is this vertical thread helps you move along the canvas in every which way that you need to go. So I'm going to go ahead and complete this cross stitch, and we'll do this again later. If I stick my needle right here and say 1, and I go under the thread and say 2, then I am again at a vertical thread. Now, you should be able to see this vertical thread at the top, and you can just go right in there, and there is a cross stitch. But the vertical thread helps keep your stitching neat, and also if you happen to go over one thread that you shouldn't or one thread less than you should, it's going to stick out in your eye. You'll be able to see it on the fabric. I can have some samples for you next week, but I really don't want to show you bad things, but maybe you need to see some. So join me next week and we're going to do some cross stitching. Thanks a lot. Now there is a difference between linen and even weave. I'm going to put a piece of linen right here, and I'm going to put a piece of even weave.